The judge in Donald Trump's hush money trial says he'll hold a hearing next Thursday about Trump's alleged violations of the gag order. Prosecutors say there are at least 14 violations, including 4 just this week, where Trump referenced witnesses and the jury. Take a listen.
How have you thought of David Schweiker's testimony so far last night?
No, he's been very nice. David's been very nice. He's a nice guy. Michael Cohen was a convicted liar. He was a lawyer for many people, not just me. And he got in trouble because of things outside of what he did for me.
That jury was picked so fast, 95% Democrats.
When are they going to look at all the lies that Cohen did in the last trial? He got caught lying in the last trial. He puts in an invoice or whatever, a bill, and they pay it. They call it a legal expense. I got indicted for that.
Joining me now is Jill Konviser, retired judge and former New York State Supreme Court justice. She's also known the judge at the center of this case, Juan Merchan, for 15 years. Let me start where we left off there. A lot of people want to know what's going to happen with the fact that the prosecution is charging that time after time after time, Donald Trump has violated the gag order that Judge Juan Merchan put in place. A lot of them have asked the question, why is he not ruling on this? What's he waiting for? You know him. You probably have some idea of how he works. Do you have an answer for them?
I don't have a precise answer, but I can tell you that obviously this trial is in a fishbowl. Judge Merchan's goal and job, quite frankly, is to bring it to verdict. And there are certain things that are, bumps along the way, and this is one of them. He also wants to take his time and make sure he makes the right decision. The legislature did not give this judge or any of us a whole lot of options with respect to contempt. You can hold someone in contempt by fining them, which probably doesn't mean a whole lot to Donald Trump, or you can send him in jail for a short period of time. That's going to complicate this and slow things down to get to the finish line. So while it appears there seems to be a series of violations by Donald Trump, certainly Judge Merchan is going to take his time to get it right and to keep this trial on track.
I mean, you do make a good point. A $1,000 fine to Donald Trump is not the same as a $1,000 fine to most people in America. Putting him in jail has implications far beyond what it would mean for a normal defendant who defied a judge's order. You have done more than a few high-profile cases of your own. There is no higher profile case than what we're seeing right now. This is one for the history books. How does being a judge on a high-profile case like this complicate matters, or what does it mean for a judge who is facing this kind of scrutiny?
That's exactly the right word, scrutiny. Every decision, every move Judge Merchan makes is being talked about on national TV. That is hard when his goal and his focus is to make sure the defendant gets the fair trial to which he is entitled. And so he needs to make sure he does everything the right way and to do the best he can to treat him as he would any other defendant. Of course, Donald Trump is not any other defendant. But at the same time, the whole panoply of rights to which he is entitled, Judge Merchan is going to make sure he gets. But the same thing is true with that gag order. So just because this is the former president of the United States doesn't mean he's not subject to the rules of the court. The gag order is in place because Donald Trump has indicated that he can't seem to follow the rules. The gag order doesn't apply only to Donald Trump. Those rules are part of our landscape, our judicial landscape for anyone who can't follow the rules. And this is where we are. And I think Judge Merchan will make ultimately the right decision here.
Judges are human.
Thank you.
But in addition to that, look, if you feel that there's someone in your courtroom who isn't following the proper procedure, isn't prepared, I could go on with the list. You can understand why sometimes you see judges get impatient. And we have seen that in this case. And one of our lawyers who has been in the courtroom says initially Judge Merchan was much more gentle with Bovee than he was with Blanche, meaning, Todd Blanche. His impatience increased as discussions continued, but he definitely prefers Bovee to Blanche. That's an observation. Does that happen? You try to avoid it, maybe, but the fact is that the way they act, the way they present themselves, and their knowledge, what their arguments are, can influence you.
That's true. And I like the way you started this piece with judges are humans. That's true. And it's also true that you get more, bees with honey than vinegar. And lawyers should take that to note.
So re-strategize if you see that something that you're doing is pushing the judge in the wrong direction. Don't keep doing it over and over and over again.
Yes and no. There are some lawyers who don't follow that rule. They will bait you. They want to be the person who gets in your face and makes you crazy. They think they win that way.
With the jury.
I think sometimes they think that. I speak to jurors. I've had, myriad cases, hundreds of jurors I've spoken to over the years, and they do not care for that. They do respect the process. They are part of the process. They take their jobs very seriously. There are exceptions to every rule, but they do. And when they see someone manipulating the system, they don't like it. So I would tell those lawyers to beware.
We just had that conversation about how we believe that, most jurors, in my case, in covering trials, is that they do take their jobs extremely seriously. Having said that, as a judge, when you watched jurors and their reaction, particularly to what might be considered, if not a gotcha moment, a high interest moment in the trial, can you read them, do you think?
I think I can read some of them, yes. There have been times now that I'm retired, I can say a judge will look at me when a lawyer does something outrageous and roll their eyes, make a face, try not to respond. But yes, because jurors are human too. But at the end of the day, they do want to do the right thing. They do want to follow the rules. They don't want to, go home and do research and break the rules that have been set down. Some of them do, and when they do, we figure it out. We do the best we can to make sure that if they're tainted or somehow impartial, that they'll get off the jury. But the overwhelming majority of jurors do the right thing, follow the mandates of the court.
When it was clear that this trial was going to happen, I thought, who would want to be the judge? Honestly, I mean, the scrutiny, the pressure. How do you think it's going so far? And has there been a moment for you, maybe in particular involving a decision by Judge Merchan, again, who you've known for 15 years, that is notable as you followed the trial closely?
I think the gag order is a big part of this case. And I think it's a big part of this case for probably all the right reasons and all the wrong reasons. We've heard Donald Trump get out on a soapbox and say, I'm being treated unlike everybody else, and I have a First Amendment right. And he does have a First Amendment right. First Amendment rights are fundamental, but they are not absolute. You cannot yell fire in a crowded theater. You cannot incite a riot. And you cannot willfully violate the mandate of a court. And that is why I think in the end, Merchan will come out the way we think he might, which is to hold him responsible. Keep in mind that holding Donald Trump responsible by finding him in contempt, it's under the judiciary law, not the penal law, which means it's neither civil nor criminal. It's sui generis. It's its own thing. But another judge, let's say a federal judge whose last name is Chutkan, may look at this and say, you have violated the rule that I told you can't get in trouble. You can't be found in contempt. That's a problem. So if I were Donald Trump, I might be a little more careful.
I'm going to get in trouble with my producer because we're out of time, but I've seen the two of you listening so closely to the judge. Do either of you have a question for her?
You always have to listen closely when there's a judge. As soon as there's a judge, it's like, oh, got to listen to the judge. So.
Anything?
No, I think she hit it spot on. But, judges are human, and judges' job is to make sure justice is pursued, whatever that means at the end of the day. And I think in the case of Juan Merchan, he's not looking at this to get a gag order decision by tomorrow. That is sort of a sideshow within reason. It's important, but so is important, and far more important is moving the case to a conclusion.
He's not Judge trying to get a TV show where he can be the next Judge Judy.
He'd be terrific. He would be terrific.
Jill Konviser, who is both a judge and a diplomat. Thank you so much for coming on the program. Much appreciated.